everyone, it is me Vegeta T23 and welcome back to my new What If. Today we're talking about what if Saiyans and Tuffles had an agreement. Before I start, I'd like to mention that I created a Discord server for you to join. The link is in the description of this video, so if you'd like to join in and talk to me and the rest of my fans, it's there. I'd also like to mention that I created an Instagram so you can survey my very uninteresting life. I mainly post Osu stuff. Now back to the video. In the last part we discussed how the Saiyans reacted to the whole Frieza coming to plan stuff. They knew he's up to no good, so they have secretly prepared a ship to escape in a hurry. While they did manage to escape, they also lost a few Saiyans and Tuffles along the way. Once they got rid of the Ginyu Force, they headed towards Earth and settled there. They made a deal with the king and immediately went to build their new civilization. As Earthlings looked on as to what's going on with those new races, amazed by their abilities, Kami was impressed with the Saiyans and asked of them to try deal with the newly released King Piccolo. As the whole Bardock's family ignored Kami, Kakarot needed some action and went with him. Once he got there, he saw a bunch of people there already and straight up knew they were Earthlings. He then saw King Piccolo and began to fight him. At first, Kakarot thought Piccolo will overwhelm him, but Piccolo was so weak compared to the properly trained Kakarot. Kakarot played with him for a little while before disposing of him. Piccolo still manages to spit out his descendant and Kami invites Kakarot to the lookout. With the recap out of the way, let's continue the what if. Kakarot went right back home. Raditz and Kakarot were watching a thing called a television while Gine cooked up a feast. Raditz asked how did it go and Kakarot mocked his brother, saying he could have done it in half the time and still be able to get to the date he scheduled. Raditz sort of lied about the date and Kakarot went nuts. Bardock just said he didn't want to bother with Earthling matters, but regardless, congratulated his son on the victory. Kakarot thought about Kami's offer and asked his father about it. Bardock said that he can do whatever when he grows up properly. Kakarot then decides he'll train on his own until then. In the city, Vegeta is roaming around. He goes into a restaurant and proceeds to devour food. There were quite a few people there, watching Vegeta vacuum up the food, and Bulma was among them. She came up to him and asked if he's that Saiyan Prince Vegeta, and Vegeta confirms it with a mouthful of food. Bulma connected the dots right away and asked if he has a moment to spare after his feast. Vegeta agrees. After his meal, Bulma asks him if he'd like to meet her father, as he's a scientist and would like to talk to him. Vegeta just says whatever and proceeds to go. In the meantime, Kakarot is training, and so far is going great, up until he hears screams out of nowhere. He goes to take a quick peek and sees a girl being chased by a massive fucking dinosaur. Kakarot thinks to himself how he can save the girl and get something into his stomach from all the training. So he rushes in as he uppercuts the dinosaur. The beast falls on his back and from there, Kakarot punches through the dinosaur's guts, killing the creature. The girl looks back to see the dinosaur bleeding and dead, and a young man looking at her as he's gathering flammable materials to start a fire. The girl rushes in and thanks Kakarot for saving her. He just says no problem and continues gathering sticks and dried bushes. She asks who he is and Kakarot answers accordingly. She mentions her name is Chi-Chi and that she's looking for a thing called a Banshu fan to help out her father and his burning castle. Kakarot is intrigued and asks of her to elaborate. She does and then asks if he can help her, seeing him as an idol and actually falling in love a little bit with him. Kakarot just says sure, but he might need to ask his parents first. So they go back to Kakarot's house. There he asks his father if he can go help his new friend, and Bardock has no issue with it. Kakarot is excited and they then go. Kakarot flies up and asks for directions, confusing Chi-Chi with his ability to fly. Chi-Chi then asks to be transported, being tired out from running. Kakarot then goes back to his clearing and lights up the flames. Chi-Chi asks Kakarot how he can fly, and Kakarot responds how it's easy and he can teach her. Once they finish eating, she's surprised by the amount Kakarot ate, but cool regardless. They then go towards the castle, with Chi-Chi riding on Kakarot's back. During the ride, she questions his tail, and he responds how all Saiyans have a tail, how it helps them unleash their full power. Just as he was about to go into the whole Super Saiyan legend thing, they arrive at Kakarot witnesses flames bigger than he's ever seen. Kakarot then decides, in order to put it out, he will try to exert his energy as hard as he can in order to create ki pressure strong enough to blow the flames out. So he tells Chi-Chi and her accomplice to stand back because this will be a pretty strong wind. He then proceeds to power up, exerting large amounts of pressure and directing it right at the mountain. The mountain is slowly starting to extinguish, but it's only a matter of time before Kakarot loses all of his energy. He then sees one of the old men that were present back when he fought King Piccolo, with some weird item in his hand. Kakarot continues on, clueless about this item. The man then swings the thing and he shoots out a very strong wind, which pushes Kakarot towards the flames and extinguishes the rest that Kakarot hasn't yet managed to extinguish. Kakarot gets up and was about to vent at the old man, but Chi-Chi's father came in first and greeted his old friend, Gohan. Gohan greets the Ox King after a long time as they start talking. Kakarot and Chi-Chi just stand next to each other, confused. As they look at each other in confusion, Chi-Chi blushes, making Kakarot go nuts. After a little while, Kakarot was about to depart home, but is stopped by the Ox King for dinner, since he helped out. So they go in the castle. In there, all of them witness Kakarot vacuuming all the food there was, looking at each other with confused faces. Ox King then goes to get something and returns with an orange ball, wanting to give it to Kakarot as a thanks. Gohan mentioned how he has the very same ball, but with 4 stars, and that those are some rare items. Ox King had no use for it and gave it to Kakarot anyways. With that, Kakarot departs after promising Chi-Chi they can hang out from time to time. In the meantime, Vegeta spoke to Dr. Briefs as Bulma promised, and Dr. Briefs would like to take a blood sample from Vegeta to see what alien blood is like and ways to improve the DNA structure if possible. Vegeta simply doesn't care and gives the sample out regardless of what the doctor is up to. Bulma is looking on to Vegeta and notices his pride, being the Saiyan Prince. Vegeta is clueless as to why that blue-haired woman is looking towards him, so he just approaches her. Bulma is stuttering out her words, trying to ask him out. Vegeta forces those words out instantly, and Bulma gets beat red, mumbling out some shit or something. Vegeta says sure, even though he has no clue how to do dates. Regardless, he rolls with it. Back at Bardock's, Kakarot says he has a potential date, and Bardock is praising him. Raditz is pissed because he ain't got a woman, and Gine is embarrassing her youngest son in front of everyone. Vegeta then barges in the house and is quite bored. He invites Raditz for a sparring session, and Raditz agrees, and Vegeta even takes Kakarot along. In the distance, the three begin training, and Raditz positively roasts Raditz, saying his younger brother throws stronger punches. 4 years later, they grow up quite fast, and they all have secured relationships. Kakarot has married Chi-Chi, and had just gotten a newborn, who he called Ginger, because the kid didn't like any Saiyan names up until Chi-Chi threw a tantrum at Kakarot for naming his son vegetables, asking if the next name is Ginger, making the baby boy happy actually. So they went with it. Vegeta and Bulma are not married yet, but they have a kid on the way, and are planning on the marriage as soon as possible. Raditz actually found a girl. Well, his brother did it for him after getting introduced to Roshi through Ox King. Launch was on the island, and he happened to be there to witness the whole transformation thing. Really cool and fascinating. Being much close to the Earthlings now, they knew about most of the Earthling stuff, and Kakarot got invited to the Tenkaichi Budokai by Roshi, knowing that the Saiyans can use some money. Vegeta and Raditz heard about it as well, and they want to join, hoping they see some strong people there. But they're coming in for a surprise, as Piccolo Jr. is also entering. And with that, we're leaving things be for now. Thank you for watching. If you think I have almost killed myself 2 days ago from Osu, then click dislike. But if you like the video, hit that like button. If you'd like me to cover your idea in the near future, comment down below. And as always, peace out.